Hello, everyone. This is the 240th episode of Soccer Nostalgia Talk Podcast. As always, this is Sean from Los Angeles and the Soccer Nostalgia blog. For this episode, I welcome back Italian author and former freelance journalist Mr. Davide Eskelund Rota as we discuss the matches of the Denmark national team during the 1982-83 season. Mr. Rota is a former freelance journalist from Biella in Italy, living in Odense in Denmark since 2013, working as a languages teacher. He's also the author of Denmark 1908 2018, chronicling the history of the Danish national team. Welcome back, Davide.
Hello, Shahan. Hello, everybody.
Let's go back in time. Last time we left off at the end of the 1981-82 season. So, what was the state of Danish football and its national team in the autumn of 1982?
The growing is not ended because Denmark has started a new process in 1979 with the new national coach, Sepp Piontek. But the journalists in that period, after they constating Denmark team was not qualified in the finals in the World Cup in '82, they were hoping in a new success and Denmark can join the European Mastership in the '84. In that period, Denmark has three good factors. The first one, as I said, is the good German national team leader, Sepp Piontek. The second one is the sponsorship of Carlsberg, the very famous beer, because Carlsberg, with this sponsorship, help Denmark national team to have some money to invest to preparation of the games. Before the sponsorship, Denmark plays a game and the preparation was only one day before. Now they can the players can join the national team sports center 3 or 4 days before to prepare the matches. The third factor is, of course, the professionalism, professional players all around in Europe, and also now professional players in Denmark. So the national team coach, Piontek, has more choice than before. So is growing and developing, and of course, we hope Denmark can join the European Mastership in '84 in France.
And as you said, Denmark had slowly been improving since Sepp Piontek's arrival in 1979. Were there expectations that Denmark could or should qualify to the 1984 Euros, especially the fact that they were in a group with England and Hungary, who would have been looked upon as favorites at this point?
They were, of course, good expectations, but of course, the group was very hard. And there were two more problems. The first one is the injury of an important player like Frank Arnesen. The second one is the star, the Danish star, former best European football player, Allan Simonsen, was without a club because in Barcelona he was fighting for with the new arrived Maradona and the German Schuster, and they were placed only to two foreign players in the team. So for a short period, luckily, Allan Simonsen was without a club, and then he found a place in second division in England in Charlton Athletic. But the Danish press was optimistic because Denmark had anyway a good team.
The season starts with a friendly against Finland at Copenhagen on August 11th, 1982. For this match, we have the following lineup: Ole Kvist of KB Copenhagen in goal, John Sivbeck of Vejle, Soren Busk of Ghent in Belgium, Per Rontvedt, captain of the team from Randers, Ole Madsen from Esbjerg, Jens Jorn Bertelsen from Sreng in Belgium, Soren Lerby playing in Ajax in Holland, Alan Simonson, who at this point was still registered to Barcelona in Spain. He would be replaced by Kim Ziegler of Aarhus in 79th minute, Jesper Olsen playing at Ajax in Holland, Lars Bastrup from Hamburg in West Germany, Lars Lundqvist of Aarhus, and he'd replaced by Michael Laudrup of Brøndby in the 46th minute. Denmark would win this match 3-2. Lars Bastrup scored in the third minute when Lerby lobbed the ball inside the box towards the left and Bastrup headed in. A few minutes later, in the 7th minute, a long range shot was parried by Ole Kvist and Ari Valvi knocked in the rebound, and the match was tied. Finland would take the lead in the 37th minute when, from the middle, Hannu Turunen was sent through on the right and he shot past Kvist. Denmark tied the match in the 65th minute when Lerby scored from an indirect free kick, and in the 71st minute, Soren Buske scored the winner when he headed in a free kick from the left side. So Denmark won this first match of the season 3-2. This was followed by another friendly weeks later on September 1st at Bucharest against another rising nation, Romania. For this match on September 1st, we have the following lineup. Oleg Kvist, he'd be replaced by Oleg here of Esbjerg in the 46th minute. Ivan Nilsson of Feyenoord in Holland. Busk Rontved, captain of the team. Ole Madsen, making his international debut and playing in his only match for Denmark. We have Michael Birkedal of Twente and Skede, and he'd be replaced by John Sivbeck in the 75th minute. Jan Molby of Ajax in Holland. He'd be replaced by international debutant John Helt of Lyngby in the 50th minute. Kim Ziegler, Jesper Olsen, Bastrup, John Eriksson of Roda JC Kerkrade in Holland, and he'd be replaced by Lars Lindqvist in the 73rd minute. And for Kim Ziegler, this was his third and final cap, all his matches in 1982. And Romania would win this match 1-0 when Ili Balaci scored in the 6th minute. We come to the first important test of the season. On September 22nd, Denmark hosts England at Copenhagen. This was the first match of the New England manager, Bobby Robson, in charge. And you have players like Peter Shilton, Phil Neal, Kenny Sansom, Terry Butcher, Brian Robson, Ray Wilkins, captain of England, Paul Mariner, Trevor Francis, among others. For this match at Copenhagen, we have the following lineup. Making his international debut in goal, Troels Rasmussen of Aarhus, Ole Rasmussen of Hertha Berlin in West Germany, Rontved, captain of the team, Ivan Nilsson, Busk, Lerby, Bertelsen, Allan Hansen of Hamburg in West Germany, Jesper Olsen, Bastrup, and Preben Elker of Lokeren in Belgium. England would take the lead in the 7th minute. Brian Robson's cross from the right side was headed across by Mariner to the far post. Graham Rix volleyed, Troels Rasmussen parried, and Trevor Francis scored from the rebound. Denmark would have to wait until the 69th minute to tie the match, when they were awarded a penalty kick after Jesper Olsen was fouled by Russell Osman in the box, and Alan Hansen scored from a penalty kick. England took the lead in the 80th minute. Ray Wilkins' corner kick from the left side was flicked across by Terry Butcher and struck in by Trevor Francis, scoring his second goal at the far post. A minute before the end, Denmark ties the match when Jesper Olsen went on a beautiful solo run to score the equalizer. And the match ended as a 2-2 tie. But Denmark were very impressive in this match against England, and I think England were lucky to come away with a point. Was the draw regarded as a point lost, or was it seen in a positive manner at this point?
No, it was in a positive manner. Maybe to talk about a point lost is too much, but Denmark played a very good game, probably one of the best game ever against a big team, a good team, one of the best in Europe at that time. And there were many interesting things in this game. The first one is the former Nestvel and now in Ajax player Jesper Olsen. Jesper Olsen was probably the man of the match, not only for the goal of the 2-2, but probably played the best season of his career. And Jesper Olsen was probably the best player in all the season 82-83 in Danish football. It was also interesting to see the goalkeeper, Troels Rasmussen, made the international debut because the two other keepers, the two Oles, so Ole Kjær from Esbjerg and Ole Kvist from Kobe, Copenhagen Ball Club, was injured both. Ole Kjær was injured in the last game in the Danish league. So Rasmussen, that was the goalkeeper of the Olympic national team, was called as a reserve, but only 2 hours before the match, Ole Kvist was sick and he had a virus and he couldn't play the game. So it was a necessary solution. And Rasmussen was one of the best men in the game. You can see in that game 0-1 with the goal of Trevor Francis, and only in the 79 minute Denmark can had a penalty with Allan Hansen. But before, twice Preben Elkjær was pushed in the box and was clearly penalty, and the referee give not the penalty to Denmark. So there were 3 penalties for Denmark in that game. Anyway, the third attempt was okay, and Allan Hansen scored the penalty because Allan Simonsen was not at the game. So Piontek had to find a specialist in the penalty kicks. And then the fantastic goal of Jesper Olsen. Jesper Olsen was in a fantastic dribbling in the middle of the 4 English defenders, a goal that remember anybody. The goal scored Maradona also against the English team in the 86, the same type, the same kind of goal, dribbling, and one by one against the goalkeeper Peter Shilton, and a fantastic goal. But it was not a lost point, a point lost, but it was surely a very, very big game for Denmark.
And to circle back to what we were saying earlier about Allan Simonsen, the star of Denmark, let's remind ourselves that he had been the Ballon d'Or when he was with Borussia Mönchengladbach. He was the main success story of Denmark at international level, and he was nearing the twilight of his career, and this was like his second act in a way, this era with the revival of Denmark. Now, as you said, because Maradona arrived at Barcelona and Brian Schuster was also there, he had to leave because there's the foreign player limit at this point in Spain with 2. So he had to leave, and he ended up in the English second division club Charlton Athletic. How was this regarded, and was it a worry that he was playing in a lower league?
Yes, it was a little worrying. You're right, because Charlton Athletic was not a big club in London or in the Premier League. At that time, the name was First Division. And Allan Simonsen was hoping to play because he had to return in the national team to help to find a way to a European Mastership in '84. So it was not a good experience. He was in Charlton probably only because of a big, good contract with a lot of money. But Charlton Athletic had also problems with Barcelona with the paying of Allan Simonsen's contract. Then he needed to wait long to play a first official match in Charlton. But before the season was ended in March '83, Allan Simonsen was back in Denmark because he had to play more continually. And the second division in England at that time was not so good like now, for example.
Denmark's next match is another friendly at Copenhagen on October 27th against Czechoslovakia. For this match, we have the following lineup: Ole Kvist back in goal, Ole Rasmussen, Per Rontved, captain of the team, Busk, He replaced by Molby in the 46th minute. Lerby, Morten Olsen from Anderlecht in Belgium, Bertelsen, John Lauritsen playing at Espanyol in Barcelona in Spain, Jesper Olsen, he replaced by Siv Beck in the 71st minute, Klaus Berggren playing in Pisa in Italy, he'd replaced by international debutant Morten Donorup of Aarhus in the 48th minute, and Michael Laudrup. Czechoslovakia took the lead in the 5th minute through Milan Cernak. Jan Fiala doubled the lead in the 16th minute. Michael Laudrup pulled the goal back in the 20th minute. Petr Janeka, he scored for Czechoslovakia from a free kick in the 37th minute, but that was disallowed. But 6 minutes later, Pavel Chalupka in the 43rd minute scored Czechoslovakia's third goal. And Jan Molby would have a penalty kick in the 80th minute that he missed. But in the end, Denmark lost 3-1 at home in this friendly. This was followed by Denmark's next Euro qualifier on November 10th at Luxembourg. For this match, we have the following lineup: Ole Kvist, Ole Rasmussen, Ivan Nilsson, Per Rontved, captain of the team. This would be his final cap for Denmark, his 75th cap for Denmark and final cap. His first cap had been as far back as 1970. You have Busk, Lerby, Morten Olsen, Lauritsen, Jesper Olsen. He'd replaced by Donarup in the 88th minute. Preben Elker, and he'd replaced by Berggren in the 46th minute, and Bastrup. Denmark were awarded a penalty kick in the 29th minute after a handball in the box. Lerby scored from the spot. Luxembourg would tie the match in the 54th minute. Robbie Langers' cross from the left side. Marcel Di Domenico's first attempt was blocked by a Danish player, and he struck in the rebound. Denmark would score the winner in the 67th minute when Jesper Olsen's powerful shot was parried by the Luxembourg goalkeeper Moes, and Klaus Berggren chested the rebound into an empty net. Denmark won 2-1. So this was Denmark captain Per Rontved's final match for Denmark after over a decade. What can you say about his impact for the Danish national team?
Rundved was a very, very important player in the Denmark team history, national team history. So Rundved was a legend in Denmark. But now Piontek has to change something in the play, in his system of playing, because Rundved was a specialist in a long shot, side by side, and he was searching a player, a kind of player, was starting the action from back, but not without a long shot, but without the ball down and something different. So Rundved had also some physical problems because of age, and he was playing in second division in Denmark, in Randers Freja. So it was not the best level. So the end of 82, Rundved had a contract in USA where he played indoor in some clubs like Wichita Wings, and later was joined by his little brother, Kim
Yes,
Rundved.
in fact, I was going to
And
say
he had a lot of success.
exactly. I was going to say his younger brother had a lot of success in indoor in USA.
Yes, Kim. But Rundved was, of course, a legend, but now Piontek need another player, and he chose Morten Olsen, because before he was a midfield. And now he can play like in a place as a libero. So in the back, and start the game in another way. So that was a choice, but Rundved, of course, has an important period in Denmark national team, like about 10 years in the red short. So thank you for all, Kim, but now this Morten Olsen has to play in this place.
This would be Denmark's last match in the calendar year 1982, and there would be a break of many months before Denmark's next match. And in the meantime, Allan Simonsson had moved back to the Danish league, And I imagine it was seen like he was winding down his career back at home. Was it a good sign that Alan Simonson moved back home and joined Vejle in the spring for this final phase of his career?
In some way, it was good for him because he has to have peace and to prepare the national team games in the better way. But anyway, it was unlucky because in the starting while he was injured and he has to miss the first 4 games in the Danish League 83 because at that period, Danish League was starting in March, April and ending in November. So he was unlucky, injured, but at the last touch in April, he was ready to play and ready to fight also for the Danish national team. Normally, Piontek was not happy to select some players of the Danish league, but of course, with Alan Simonsen, he has to make an exception because he was still a big talent and he was still a big leader in the group.
Denmark's first match in this calendar year, 1983, is a Euro qualifier against Greece. And remember, Greece was in Denmark's group in the last World Cup qualifiers. This match is on April 27th at Copenhagen. We have the following lineup: Ole Kjær of Esbjerg, Ole Rasmussen, Soren Busk, Morten Olsen, the new captain of the team, Ole Madsen of Brøndby, Bertelsen, Lauritsen, Alan Simonsson, now Avele. He replaced by John Sivbeck in the 80th minute. Jesper Olsen, he'd be replaced by Bastrup in the 46th minute. Elker and Berggren. And for Bastrup, this was his 30th and final cap for Denmark. His first cap had been in 1975. So this match, Denmark would win 1-0 with a late goal. In the 77th minute, Lauritsen's corner kick from the right side was headed in by Busk, and Denmark won an important match at home. So this is 3 matches and 2 wins and a tie thus far in the group. This was not only an important win, also for Lars Bastrup. This was his final match for Denmark. In over a month, he would also win the Champions Cup with SV Hamburg. How would you describe his national team career?
Statistics says very good. 30 matches, 10 goals, but he stopped too soon because he was only 27. But he said it was because of lack of motivations. Probably was also another ground. Lars Bastrup was not a public player. He was a good player to the pitch, but not very good in public relations. So it was not good to talk with journalists. Once he said all the journalists, the Danish journalist category is bad. So he had not a good friendship with journalists. And he would like to come back in Denmark. So the game against Juventus in Athens, the final of the Champions Cup, was the last game as a professional player. He was back in Aarhus in Denmark, and he was playing in second division as an amateur player. And Lars Bastrup has a lot of interest. He was probably too much intellectual to football, and he was inside in a group of religion, like something about a sect in religion. And he was the spiritual chef of this group. He's still the spiritual chef in this group, and he writes books about Tolkien of Bible. Yeah, I have to say also in the last game with Hamburg in Athens, when he was playing from start until minute 55, he was outside because Claudio Gentile, famous Italian defender, was against him with a headbutt. With the other players happy because Hamburg won the Champions Cup. Between them, there was a very, very sad Lars Bastrup because he broke his nose in 2 places and he had to go to the hospital. And it was not the best ending with the professional football he had hoped. So out and in the hospitals, they won the Champions Cup against Juventus, against also pronostics. So they were unexpected. I would like to say something more about Søren Busk. Søren Busk scored an important goal against Greece. but he was coming from a bad period. He was the worst man against Czechoslovakia. He was responsible for the 3 goals about Czechoslovakia. And also in the other games in Luxembourg, for example, he was not very effective. So it was a good day for him because he scored also the first goal with the national team, and he was very happy. At the end of the game, he was shooted by camera with Greek shorts because he had changed the short. He still had the short as the best and the most important goal of his career.
We come to the end of the season. Denmark has one last important match against Hungary. Let's remember this is a Hungary that has qualified to the 1978 and 1982 World Cups. This match was a key match on June 1st at Copenhagen. We have the following lineup: Ole Kjær, Ole Rasmussen, Ivan Nilsson, Morten Olsen, captain of the team, Ole Madsen, Bertelsen, Lauritsen. He'd be replaced by Jesper Olsen in the 46th minute, Allan Simonsson, Lerby, Elker. He'd be replaced by Kenneth Brill of Anderlecht in Belgium in the 75th minute, and Berggren. Denmark would take the lead in the 4th minute. From the middle, Lauritsen passed across to the right, and Elker scored with a long-range shot from outside of the box. Hungary would tie the match in the 30th minute when Tibor Nilasi received the pass at the edge of the box. He turned to the right and shot past Kjær. Denmark would have to wait until the 81st minute to score again. In the 81st minute, Kenneth Brill, the substitute, his cross from the right side was headed across to the middle. There was an attempt, I believe, by Berggren, and this was parried by the Hungarian goalkeeper, and Jesper Olsen headed in the rebound. Just a few minutes later, in the 85th minute, Jesper Olsen was fouled in the box by Katsirs, the Hungarian goalkeeper, and Allan Simonsson scored from penalty kick, and Denmark won 3-1. At the time, was this win a statement of purpose similar to the one over Italy 2 years earlier?
I don't think too much because there were different situations. But anyway, something similar. In this situation, Denmark has to play still 3 games abroad in the group. So it was not very easy to find a place in the EM in France. Only one at home against Luxembourg. But they were coming from a series, a strike of 4 games and 7 points. It means much for the publicum, for the fans, for the journalists. Denmark was winning a very important game. Hungary at that time was in the 2nd level in the European football ranking. One more time, a big performing of Jesper Olsen. Jesper Olsen was scoring a goal by head, and he is only 1 meter 76 centimeters high. And he was finding a penalty kick very important against the Hungarian goalkeeper Katsirs. So Denmark, as I said, in that season, Jesper Olsen was the most important player for the Piontek's team.
It appears that Denmark still had problems in the goalkeeping position as Troels Rasmussen, Ole Kjær, and Ole Kvist were all tried out. Was it mainly due to the fact that goalkeepers in this pre-Bosman era were seldom transferred to foreign leagues?
Probably, yes. I think you're right. But Denmark has still one goalkeeper abroad. It was still Birger Jensen in Bruges. But he was not the first choice, so he was sometimes in the bench. So the other reason is because Denmark in that period has not so many good goalkeepers. And so Piontek has to choose something in the Danish league, but he was not satisfied about Kjær, Kvist. Kvist was also going down in 2nd division with Kobe, with Copenhagen Ball Club, because they were the the worst season for the historical Danish club. So only Rasmussen, Truls Rasmussen and Ole Kjær were at something like international level. But Denmark has no other good goalkeeper in that period. We have to wait. We should wait the explosion of the big Peter Schmeichel, but it came later.
By the end of this season, you have the likes of Jesper Olsen, Lerby, and Molby. They were champions in Holland with Ajax, with Johan Cruyff as a teammate. You have the Anderlecht contingent, Morten Olsen, Kenneth Brill, Per Freeman. I'm trying to remember if he was at Anderlecht at that
Yes,
point. Yeah.
it was at Anderlecht.
They won the UEFA Cup that season. Klaus Berggren was playing in a Serie A. We mentioned Lars Bastrup. He won the Champions Cup as well as the Bundesliga title that season. Soren Lerby was so highly rated that he was headed to Bayern Munich to replace Paul Breitner, who was retiring, and Michael Laudrup was signed by Juventus and was to be loaned to Lazio in the Serie A. In fact, Laudrup almost signed for Liverpool as well that summer before he was signed by Juventus. Were these players now being looked upon with a different eye by the teams on the continent?
Yes, I think so, but sometimes in the wrong way, because someone say the Danish players are like the new Hollanders. They were not Hollanders like Holland in 70s. They were different. They were not only tactically good with only one leader like Johan Cruyff, but they were also technical, and they were also very good to play in different positions, like, for example, Klaus Berggren. Klaus Berggren played very good in defense in '84. He was very good to stop Michel Platini against France. But in some games, he was very good to score a goal, like the strange game against Luxembourg. So he was a very, very flexible player, Klaus Berggren. And all the Danish players were very good to change position because Piontek asked them to play in another place, like Søren Lerby. Søren Lerby was a leader. He was probably at that period one of the best European left foot player. And in one game, because Jesper Olsen was a bit injured, he started the game as a central midfielder. And it was very, very important, this game, for him and for the team. So Danish player had a very strong potential, but not only one leader like it could be Simonsen, but also very good players in offensive game like Elkjær, like Jesper Olsen, and talent players like John Lauritsen from Espanyol with technical skills, very good.
At the end of the season, was there confidence ahead of the upcoming group decider at Wembley against England in September?
There were confidence, optimism, but to think a victory in the temple of football like Wembley was maybe too much. We have to see if the draw was enough to Denmark to qualify. So they have to score many goals against Luxembourg at home, but probably was not enough. But anyone can hope to win in Wembley against England, against the team of Bobby Robson.
In closing, had the press and public been convinced by Sepp Piontek and the team's progress? Was it self-evident that Denmark were on the verge of breaking through?
Yes, after this season, they were confident, and the attendance in the Parken, Idrætsparken in Copenhagen was always growing. Many new football enthusiasts were following the Danish national team, and now also a little bit the Danish league because Allan Simonsen and other players were back to play at home. So it was a very good period for the Danish football developing. The only thing negative, not very good, was against England at home. There were in the end of the game, some riots between the fans of England and Denmark. There were shots and something like firework in the stadium, and it was the start of a bad period for European football against hooliganism. And Denmark was seeing something also at home in the normally calm down Idrætsparken. But in the same time, Danish fans were starting to a new situation where they were following the national team abroad. And so it was also the starting of the Roligans, as they were called, the Danish fans, Rolig in Danish between calm. And in the same time, they tried to have a group of fans always growing, and very good fans. Only they were only happy and to like to drink a beer, and not many riots, not almost never against the other fans.
With that, I would like to thank you for your participation in this interview and look ahead to the 1983-84 season that would change history for Danish football. Remind everyone that all our contact information is listed on the blog and podcast uploads. So, Davide, thank you once again and hope to continue these discussions on football history.
Yes, of course, because the best has to come 83, 84 until 86. It was a very good trip.
Indeed, indeed. So, thanks again, and yeah, looking forward.
Thanks to you, and hello to everybody.